Hey, everybody, please make sure to go ahead and rate, review, and subscribe. Thanks. 66. Let's get to Dune Part 2, which is now on digital demand for purchase. It's directed by Denis Villeneuve, stars Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Florence Pugh, Austin Butler, Javier Bardem, Josh Brolin, and many, many others. And the synopsis is Paul Atreides unites with Chani and the Fremen while seeking revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the universe, he must prevent a terrible future only he can foresee. So, I did review part one maybe a month ago on the dailies, so you can check that out on the regular feed. And I'll list the details in the show notes as well for this episode. I love the first Dune. I think Denis Villeneuve is one of the best directors working today, really one of the best directors of all time. I think basically every movie that he's done is a 5 out of 5 for me. Like, I think Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, Prisoners, list goes on and on. I think he is incredible, and I cannot wait to see what he does next. I was very much looking forward to this. As I said, I loved part one. I think that the overall story of Dune and how they're adapting this book is incredibly exciting and rich. And with all that being said, flat out, and I've only seen it once, I cannot wait to watch it like a billion more times, and I'm glad I bought it so I can just keep rewatching it over and over and over again. I think it is by far the best movie of the year. So far, that's not a big bar or high bar, but by far the best. I think it's close to being his best movie. It might be his best. I'm not sure. I think, though, it is one of the best sci-fi movies ever. And putting it in with part one, I think it is easily one of the best sci-fi franchises ever. I think it is, I don't want to sound too repetitive or generic, but I was blown away by this movie, as many seem to be. The scale, the drama, the emotion, the resonance, the incredible visual imagery in both part one and part two is unparalleled. Everything from the score, the performances, the editing, the cinematography, like all this stuff sounds very normal, I guess, in terms of praising something, but this movie is on a whole other level. And it's, along with part one, it's a perfect example of showing people who say, oh, sci-fi's dead, you can't be original, or you can't make something different. You know, Marvel or whoever else have ruined blockbusters, whatever else it might be. This is a perfect example of, if you have the right story, the right director, the right crew and cast, you can make something incredibly unique. And so I highly encourage everyone to watch it. You got to start with part one in order to get the context, of course, but it was unbelievably good. One thing I do want to point out, if I had to pick, though, I don't know how some people feel. I think a lot of people say that part two is better than part one. But I think if I had to choose, both movies are amazing. But I think if I had to choose, I would choose part one over part two, at least at this point. Maybe that'll change on rewatches. But I kind of like the setup of part one and the setup of the world, the setup of those characters and the ideas, as opposed to those things continuing on in the story. So I don't know why that is exactly, but I have seen the first one many, many times, so maybe that's partially the reason. I'm not sure. But this movie, like, it's hard to even pinpoint why it's so great because everything about it is so great. It's really long, but I feel like I was captivated for every minute of it. It also reaffirms why I think Timothy Chalamet is becoming one of the most true, like, movie stars of our era, because he's not in some big cinematic universe, at least as of yet, but he's taking everything from small indie roles like Bones and All or Call Me by Your Name, whatever else it might be, or Lady Bird, to being in Dune. And I think it's the cast across the board. I mean, if you're getting to be in Dune, you have to be at your best. And I think everybody absolutely is. The cinematography, like, it goes without saying, the color palette, the design of the world, the costumes, the production design, like, I don't know what all was real, locations what wasn't. I guess that's a compliment, but it felt like every scene there was something incredibly inventive and creative. I was always intrigued by the mystery of it, like what's left unsaid, not shown. I think there's a lot of interesting ideas and possibilities with what is going on in the world, what they're trying to say. And I think it all does speak to, at least in this one more so, someone from the outside of a culture, I guess you can say, being seen as the leader or a possible leader, and there being a lot of hesitation by both the leader himself, which is Timothy Chalamet, and then also by that culture too. So I think there is such depth to everything, and I feel like I could watch it 20 times and I would still be finding new things. And it's easily, like, if we're talking about new trilogies, because there is apparently going to be a third one, thankfully, I think that it's hard to think that you could get better than the first two, but this is easily going to be one of the best franchises really of all time. I think I can go and say that. Like, I can't really think of another recent franchise that has had this sort of impact, at least even just me personally, but I think it is really starting to get a following more and more. And I'm so glad that part two has done so well box office wise, because I wasn't really sure, considering the first one did okay, but not amazing financially. So do check it out. Part two and part one are masterpieces. Thank God for Denis Villeneuve. I cannot wait to see what you do next. And with the rest of your career, you are amazing. Thank you to everyone involved in this movie, because it really does. And I think Oppenheimer was a great recent example as well of there can still be great theatrical movies. Not everything is a great TV show or a great streaming product. You can still have great theatrical movies and experiences. So, yeah, that is a heavy 5 out of 5, 10 out of 5, 100 out of 5. Dune is amazing. Oh, and also one quick thing show-wise, if there's any movies, any reviews that you would like to see expanded upon in whatever way, like if I'm not talking enough about one movie that you want to see other things covered within that, like the themes, the other scenes, performances, whatever it might be, let me know through the contact information in the show notes. I'm happy to do like a second version of the episode of the review to give people more of what they want. So please let me know if that's something you have thought of, since I've been doing the daily episodes.